Hello, this is Ian with another Magic the Gathering arena video. So I thought today what we'd do is we'd run through the first part of a sealed session. That's going to be a little bit of a different video today. Usually I just play through some games with some decks that people are building and stuff like that. But I thought today we would go through a sealed session. So typically when we're looking at our cards and evaluating and so on, of course we'll go with the BREAD algorithm as B-R-E-A-D. So B stands for bomb. This is a very powerful card, perhaps one of the most powerful cards we see in our selection of cards that we have available to us. And go to removal, where we can remove a threat that's on the board posed by our opponent. And then we have E is for evasion. So evasion would be things like flying, any other thing, like for instance a card you can't counter, or it has protection for a particular color, hexproof, things like that. And we've got A for aggro. This is something that plays aggressively, and we can swing in really quickly, such as creatures with haste, things like that, cheap creatures with haste. Mono red archetypes would fit the aggro. And D is for either dud or dregs. And that's just all the other filler cards or other things that simply aren't going to be all that useful to us in our strategy. All right, with that little intro, let's get into a game. And we've got ourselves here a couple of sealed entry tokens. And looks like we'll get some kind of bonus full art land. It's cool. Well, let's get into it. What do we get? A forest. That's cool. Very nice looking. Claim that prize. Let's see. Cross our fingers. Hopefully we get something awesome. I'll be honest with you guys, I haven't really looked an awful lot at the set. I've looked at a few cards here and there, but haven't really taken a very detailed look at the set. So we'll be looking at this together, trying to figure out what cards are useful to go in our deck, what archetypes we can build around. Okay, let's crack these packs. Okay, so these would be the more highly rated cards, at least the rare ones. Got one mythic rare here, Tazri Beacon of Unity, for 4 and a white. Legendary creature, human warrior. This one has party. Whether we can use party or not will depend on what else we have. We do have this warrior over here. The spell costs 1 generic mana less to cast for each creature in your party. And you can play Wooburg mana rather than Wooburg mana. So no white, but all the others. Or 2 generic. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal up to 2 cleric, rogue, warrior, wizard, or ally cards from among them and put them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any random order. Okay, so if we were looking to fill our party and we had a party deck of some sort, that might be very useful for that. To me, this seems more like, unless we are really lucky and end up with a lot of cards that fit into the party archetype, I'd say this might see more play in Brawl, perhaps, if we're able to build especially historic Brawl, or is it friendly Brawl, I think it's called. You might be able to play more into the party archetype there. At least that's what I would say. Then we've got here a dual land DFC. This would be very useful. And this doesn't even come down tapped, so that's pretty sweet. It's basically a dual land where we have to just decide which mana are we short on in either a multicolor deck, or this is especially useful perhaps in a Gruul deck. Okay, so then we have for another rare legendary creature core warrior, we have here Akiri, Fearless Voyager. For 1 generic mana and Boros mana, that is 1 red and 1 white. Whenever you attack a player with 1 or more equipped creatures, draw a card. And you can pay white, and after you do so, you may unattach an equipment from a creature you control. If you do, tap that creature and it gains indestructible until end of turn. So you could use this ability to protect a crucial piece that's on the board, and from removal. If your opponent needs to try to defend themselves by removing a crucial piece you're going to use next turn to swing in for lethal, you could protect that creature by just paying a white. So you leave a white up once this is on the board, and this will protect that from being destroyed. Now, of course, it won't protect it from anything other than things that have the keyword destroy. So -1, -1 counters and such wouldn't count here, and things like that. But destroy would, so all that sort of thing would do it. It won't protect it from board wipes either, anything that's non-targeted. What else do we have here? We've got Coveted Prize for 4 generic and 1 black. It's a sorcery at rare. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your party, so another party card. Search your library for a card, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. If you have a full party, you may cast a spell with converted mana cost 4 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. Okay, so this one might come in handy again, a party deck. I haven't looked enough at the set to see if party really is a thing we can do. I'm not sure I'd risk it in sealed unless we get extremely lucky. There might say some play in constructed, especially in historic. And here we have another DFC or dual-faced card. So 1 face is Valakut Awakening for 2 generic and 1 red. It's an instant at rare. Put any number of cards from your hand on the bottom of your library, then draw that many cards plus 1. This one might be really useful if you're flooding out, let's say, you already have all the mana on the board you need. You can chuck all those cards on the bottom and grab a whole new fistful plus 1 extra. This one's super useful. And that's at instant speed, so it could be even on your opponent's turn. Say you cast a land and all the rest of your hand is mostly lands. You could, and you have enough mana up here, you could cast this guy on your opponent's turn, replace your hand, so by the time it gets back around to you, all that other mana you have on the board, you can play something else out once you untap. And the other side of the card, Valakut Stoneforge. Valakut Stoneforge enters the battlefield tapped. That's a tapped land. Once you do untap it, you can tap it for 1 red. So if the opposite is happening to you, and you're not flooding out, but instead short on land, you can drop this as a land instead. I think, you know what, I think this is super useful in some Boros or mono red, or any deck really that features red. And especially perhaps in a mono red deck. I certainly plan on giving this a spin in a mono red aggro deck. See what use it could have. It's certainly for that rare times we get flooded out, would help rescue us from that and get us back into the game, and back into the fight. Tajuru Paragon for 1 generic and a green. And it's a creature elf at rare. It's also a cleric, rogue, warrior, and wizard. So it's any member of the party we're missing, I suppose. What we need. And you could kick it for 3 generic mana. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, reveal the top 6 cards of your library. You may put a card that shares a creature type with it from among them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So you may put a card that shares a creature type with it Okay, so that's an elf, I suppose. So if we find another elf, so maybe this like an might find a place in elf ball or something. Again, if you know there's more of these types of creatures, these elves that are either clerics, rogues, warriors, or wizards, or what have you. Also, if you had 4 of these in your deck, you could go grab another one about. So, having looked at all the rares, let's have a look at everything else. Okay. All right. So, let's just flick through. So all of this is in Wooburg order, as it should be. There's a lot here. I'm just flying through here a little bit. I know it's a little much. Let's see. Hopefully you can see that. I think perhaps we can crank up the graphics a tiny bit. Oh, they're already maxed out. We'll just leave this like that. Now, let's see. So we've already had a look at our rares. Do we have any 4 ofs or 3 ofs? Just 3 of Shell Shield. It's an instant. Pay 1 blue for it. At common, you can pay an extra generic mana to kick it. Target creature you control gets +0/+3 until end of turn. If this spell was kicked, that creature also gains hexproof until end of turn. This is a form of evasion. We're looking at our bread acronym. This is E for evasion. Okay. All right. So let's have a look again for those rares. Well, let's even just look here for removal. So first let's look for just straight removal. This one here, sort of removal, but not. Choose target, attacking or blocking creature. Practice tactics deals damage to that creature equal to twice the number of creatures in your party. Okay. Okay, this is evasion. Right here, E for evasion. So let's have a look at straight removal. That would be in instants and sorceries only. Actually, you know what? Let's go alphabetically. Let's go to our bombs first. Our bombs would be all sort of high-costed cards for the most part, I would think. So let's look here for things that are at, let's say, 7 and above. Do we have anybody? You're good. I've seen you played already a few times. Prowling Felidar. Last we only have 1 of them, but still, it's a good one. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Let's see. So we look at all of our more expensive to cast cards. Got this guy here. Or girl, in fact. This creature. Emira Captain. And the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter in it for each in your party. The battlefield, scry X. Where X is number of creatures. So we have party here. Party, so how many party cards do we have? So with this higher cost, not too many. Maybe we'll look at that later. Got some removal here. We've got Tazri. And we've got this one and the battlefield Scryax, where that's not really a bomb. Let's see. As long as you control another wizard. As this card has, when this creature dies, draw a card. Four-footed Infiltrator. Merfolk. It's nice to see Merfolk back again. In the beta, I love playing Merfolk decks. Blue-green Merfolk decks were always fun to play. I had a really good one that worked really, really well. that went away when before they got the whole rotation thing all sorted out. It got essentially nuked. But which is unfortunate. Or I got to export it out and save the deck list. But someday I hope to build that again and play it in Historic, because that was fun. Although some of the cards, I believe, were from sets that have not been brought back to Arena yet. Anyway, enough of that. Skyclave Plunder. 4 generic and a blue. Top cards are X top cards are a library where X is 3 plus the number of creatures in your party. Put 3 of those cards into your hand and the rest of the bottom of your library in any order. So classic blue. Help me get cards. A coveted prize, which we talked about before. Another one of our rares. So really, I think our only real bomb here is Tazri. So let's put Tazri into our deck for now and see what we have in the way of white. So let's go back in here. We'll reset the filter. We'll just have a look at white and generic. Hit OK. See what we have for the white archetype that'd be useful. So we've already looked for bombs. Don't really have any enormous bombs besides Tazri, really, in white. So this one here, choose target, attacking or blocking creature, practice tactics, deal damage to equal twice the number of creatures in your party. That's quasi removal. It's not great, but let's drop it in there. This is strictly sort of quasi bear. Bears typically cost 2 mana and are 2/2s. This is sort of a bear, but better for attacking than blocking. This is a 3/1 instead of a 2/2. 2/2s are much more flexible. Decent for attacking early game, decent for blocking at pretty much any time, but especially early game. Dauntless Unity. Let's see here. It's an instant again. So this is more of a combat trick rather than a removal. Still might be good. Let's see here. Okay, this is kind of conditional lifelink though. Doesn't really fit our bread formula. So this one here is evasion. Tap creature, target creature, draw a card. So I think we could temporarily put that in there. We got one of these. This one's dual faced. Okay, so it's kind of useful. But 2 mana here, we can, at instant speed, target creature you control gains protection from color of your choice till end of turn. So that's evasion. We'll put that in. I like this guy. I like landfall. Landfall, I'd say, is hands down my favorite mechanic in this set over the party mechanic, I would say. So this guy, I think, is is pretty much an auto-include. This guy has landfall. So for 2 generic and 1 white, you get Canyon Jaboa. It's a creature mouse, and it has landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. And it's a 1/2. I think that's pretty good. I think we'll drop that in there if we're in white. Okay. What else we got here? Got quite a few clerics and warriors. Interesting. Okay, this is removal. That goes in. Admittedly, it's conditional removal. Smite the Monstrous for 3 generic and 1 white. Destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. I've seen games go both fast and slower. Mostly faster in this set with landfall. At least in constructed. All the gameplay I've watched so far has been constructed. Watching some of the streamers and so on play the set with their sort of VIP decks that they get temporarily loaned to them by wizards. Anyhow, let's have a look here for more either bombs or removal or evasion. Okay, this is evasion of a sort. So could go in. But let's keep going on for our bombs or removal. This is a symmetrical effect, which is nice and fair at least, and it's a wizard to fill the party. Might come back to it later. Full Celebrant. This, you gain 1 life, it's okay. This one, again, relying on the party mechanic, which I think we might be able to make work. It's starting to look like we, especially if we can find more party members in another color, perhaps. Let's see. Creature Beast, you are strictly amazing, so you go in. I love this card. So why do I love this card? So, Prowling Felidar. 3 generic and 1 white. It's a creature cat beast with vigilance. And it has landfall. This is why I love this card. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So we've got this, and we've got this guy. So imagine if we have both on the board here. Gosh, I wish we had more of these. Because this is awesome. So we got him. This little chap can pump up this little chap. And this little chap can pump himself up. Absolutely amazing. I love that. I love the landfall. So much fun. Okay. Relic Axe. So we'll have to see just how much, if we have any equipment. Let's see here. If we just reset this, you know, just out of super curiosity here. Let's see how much equipment we have. No, so Akiri, not great for that, but I'm glad we do have one of her, because I would love to build a Brawl Equipments deck. That sounds like super fun. Anyhow, that's enough distraction there. Let's go back to what we were looking at. Okay, so this is card draw, which we might come back to if we need another creature. And this one here is evasion. So could be super useful if we know we're against an opponent with a lot of removal, like an opponent with black especially, or green, or a combination of the two. Especially useful. That's where all the destroy is. There's a little bit in white as well, but for creature destruction, most is going to be black and green. We'll go Golgari. Okay, so this one might be useful. You know what? Let's chuck it in for now. Full Celebrant. Okay. Skyclave Sentinel. You're interesting. So Artifact Creature Gargoyle for 3 generic. Flying and Defender. Okay, so it has evasion because it flies. You may kick it for an extra 4 generic. If Skyclave Sentinel was kicked, it ends the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. So it suddenly becomes a 3/4. As long as Skyclave Sentinel has a +1/+1 counter on it, it can attack as though it didn't have Defender. So if we can find more landfall stuff, and these guys are on the board, this guy would get pumped up and start flying right off the bat. You know, I think we'll drop you in. Just in case, we can always take you or drop you in the sideboard later. Or, well, I should say, all this stuff you see here is sideboard. Okay, now let's see what other colors we might have that are usable here. Let's see first. Well, you know, let's clear the filter for a minute. And I want to see how much landfall we have. Because that might help us. Whoops. Help if I could type landfall. Landfall. Not something as an IT guy I ever want to have happen. Landfall? No. No thanks. Okay. What's going on with our filters here? Let's reset the filters again. Land. Oh my goodness. Okay. I cannot type worth anything today. Ball. Why? Oh, right, because I've already pulled them out. Okay, so let's have a look at our landfall guys here. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, this guy gets +2/+2 until end of turn. That's alright. Similar to our mouse. Actually, sorry. More similar to our Prowling Felidar. This helps itself. It is lower on our curve. We are short on 1-costed spells right now. Bitfire Lagak. It is for 3 generic and 1 red. And it's a creature lizard at common. Landfall, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, this deals 1 damage to each opponent. Interesting. So this would be very useful in some other decks, but for us, like decks like the classic Cascade, the Cascade type deck, very useful. You ping your opponent every time you drop a land. Very, very nice. Okay. Territorial Scythe Cat. Another pretty good card. Trample. It's a creature cat for 2 generic and 1 green at command. Landfall, whenever a land enters the battlefield you control, put a +1/+1 counter on this guy. So this is like our Prowling Felidar, but in green. Okay. Canopy Baloth. Okay, creature beast. Landfall, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control. Canopy Baloth gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Okay, so not permanently, so in some ways less good, though it's already a 4/3, so it suddenly becomes a 6/5. That's a pretty big threat on the board. Certainly something worth considering. Okay, we don't have a lot of landfall stuff, so I mean we have some, and we've got what, half our deck already filled. So what if we dropped these 2 fine chaps in here, and then we look for other green spells. And let's pop in that generic mana too, although does it matter? No, it doesn't matter. Okay. So we can just leave this at the green. Nice, it still includes these guys. Perfect. Alrighty. So for each creature in your party, so now how many party members do we have? So we've got Cleric, a warrior, just a cleric and a warrior. Let's see if we can make up other party members here. So if we put you in, and then we, okay, you're strictly sideboard. This guy, definitely sideboard card. Really good sideboard card, because it is removal. But it's very conditional. Key here, when you're thinking about sideboard cards for best of 3. Destroy target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. So this is great in the second game when you find you've come up against, maybe even lost to, especially lost to, an opponent with some key pieces that are artifacts, artifact enchantments, or creatures with flying. You definitely side this guy in. But it doesn't go in your main deck unless you're desperate. Okay, this is removal. So let's drop it in. Rabid Bite. I like Rabid Bite. Okay, this guy pumps up the team. Not bad. Adventure awaits. So for 1 generic and 1 green, or 2 mana, it's a sorcery at common. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them, put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. If you didn't put a card into your hand this way, draw a card. This doesn't fit into our bread acronym, but, you know, actually pretty good. I think it's card draw in green, so let's drop that in. Okay. Choose target creature you control. put a +1/+1 counter on it for each creature in your party. Okay, so let's see. So we still don't really have enough to enable the party mechanic particularly. So your party consists of up to one of each. So we can't have cleric, 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 cleric and have it go +3/+3. That's not going to fly, unfortunately. Okay. You're a good blocker against flyers. Again, a good sideboard card, but not on our main board unless we need a filler creature. Iridescent Horn Beetle, a 4 generic and a green. Creature insect at uncommon. At the beginning of your end step, create a 1/1 green insect creature token for each +1/+1 counter you put on creatures under your control this turn. So this might play into our landfall. We have quite a few landfall type things, so if we're missing creatures at the top of our curve, we have, yeah, we don't have a lot of curve topping. We have, what? 1. Okay, well this is useful here. 2 warriors, 1 cleric. That's cool, they put that in there. Very useful, alright. So what do we do here? This will gain us life. Cool, but again, doesn't really fit into our bread acronym here. At the beginning of your end step, creature, so how many places can we put +1/+1 counters on things? 1. 2. 3. 4, possibly. 5. 6. So 6. So you know what? You might be useful as a curve topper for our creatures. This would gain us life, but other than that, not that useful. It's a filler card. 2 generic and a green. Creature, troll, warrior, a common. Marasa Brute. It's a 3/3. A filler card if we need creature in the middle of our deck. And if we need creatures in the middle portion. We don't really have any instants or sorceries at that section of our deck yet, so I have to think about that. Okay, so let's see here. Marasa Sproutling for 2 and a green. Creature, plant, elemental. You can also kick it for 1 generic and a green. When this enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, return target card with a kicker ability from your graveyard to your hand. Interesting. And it's at uncommon. So let's see here how many kicker cards we have. Have a lot of kicker cards. 1. 2. Just 2. Not super useful, maybe good as a filler creature. I mean, it passes the vanilla test. The 3/3 for 3. So that passes the vanilla test just on its own. And blocks pretty well at 3 power and 3 toughness. Can still be removed by sunburn spells, but still gets past things like shock, which I believe is still in standard, so could be good as a filler creature for short on creatures. But what are we at here? So we're at this much. Let's see here now. We go back to white. Let's have a look at our deck. In the other position here, how many instants and sorceries and the like do we have? 4 instants, 4 sorceries. Let's see. Is that enough? Well, our instants. Let's see. Our instants. Let's see, where are the instants at? They're lower down, and this is a nice DFC as well, which is super handy. It's a tap land, so a little slower. Okay. So we'd have a total of 17 lands. That's pretty much right on the money. Let's see. Rabid Bite. Sorcery speed removal. Okay. For removal, how many bits of removal do we have? We've got that. 1. Okay. 2. So if we go back to our card pool for a second, remove all the filters, and then we go back here. So in red, we've got a lot of removal here as well. What else do we have in red? Not an enormous amount of spells in red, honestly. It's mostly instants and sorceries and so on, which is super useful, but not a lot. Our biggest pool of cards, I think, seem to be mostly in green. I think it's still... Let's see, for our removal, go to DFC here in Gruul. So what if we took out, if we did that, we'd lose our bomb. Just Tazri. Let's see, how many people of a party do we have? Party-wise, so we've got 1. 3 only. So if we were to take out all the white and put in red instead, so how many white cards are we talking here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's see, we replace all of them here. 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have 8 here. Do we have any landfall stuff? We do. This one also gets pumped up from landfall till end of turn at least. But otherwise it's a 0-1, so a little weak. But then it could surprise our opponent. However, we do have this DFC dual color here to support that. Let's see. This one here, combat trick with Scry, pretty cool. This is removal. And another removal, so that's 2 removals. 3 removal. Okay. 3 removal. 3 removal. 4 removal. That is 4 removal, admittedly. Yes, that's 4 removal. So let's have a look at white, what we currently have in his removal here. So we got 4 for red. For white, we've got, that was 4 there. Make a note of that because I'm not going to remember. Not going to remember that. Let's see here. So 4 in red. Now let's see. For white, we have sort of conditional removal. A 1. Two. Very conditional. Only 2. So let's do a test here. Let's do an experiment. Let's take out... Okay, let's take out all our white guys. Well, that'll make me very sad to have to remove the Jerboa here, but we only have 1 copy of it. Let's take out all our white spells. This is a test here. And let's put in the red stuff instead. So we'll drop you in. Drop you in. You, your removal. You. And you for removal. And you also. I think useful. Because we get to refill our hand if we get flooded. We get to refill our hand if we get flooded. I think that's useful to have. This one pings our opponent. Pretty cool. This one here. Removal. Scorch Rider is a warrior. So it can also be hasty. It's a 4/3. It's actually not bad. Kicker is 1 generic and red, so that's not much more expensive. Not that much more expensive for casting it later in the game. It's a 4/3. When it enters the battlefield as kicked, it gains haste until the end of turn, so we could swing in. So that's actually pretty cool. This guy blocks quite well. You deal with landfall, so you definitely go in. And then let's say, what are our filters set to here? Just red. Okay. Okay. When we do this, we attach it for free. It's a warrior. How many warriors do we have? 1. 2. It's 2 warriors so far. 2. 2. That's it for now. 2. Put you in. That's 3. 4. Yes, you go in. Let's see. We'll be short 2 cards. Okay. Let's look back at green again. Okay, so we could put... Let's see again, party member-wise. How are we doing here? We got a lot low to the ground here. And then we start to drop off at the higher cost. Interesting. So we're basically aggro. Rule aggro at this rate. I think it's actually pretty cool. So party-wise, we've got what? 3 warriors only? Not the best. However, so this here, not the best. But this guy here is another warrior. So if we drop him in. Not you. What about you? This guy might be good as a curve topper. It was kick target card with a kicker ability from your graveyard to your hand. We have a lot of kicker stuff. One. Two. 3. So 3 cards that enable that are kicker related. So you could be good as a curve topper, so you might be a possibility. What else we got here? This guy has reach. That is useful as an early blocker if we're dealing with flyers. This one here, again, possibly decent-ish as a curve topper, but not great. You got kicker. Let's see here. Whenever you put on, so this is good in that Gruul counters deck. I know the very first paper deck I ever made was a Golgari or black and green counters deck. A lot of fun to pilot. It had Nissa in there, and it was a great deck. A lot of fun. I still have it. I haven't disassembled it. I'm not sure I've disassembled any of my decks so far. I've not really felt the need to. Let's see here. Do we have anything else? Let's see. We're not filtering anything else here. So for our filler card, so removal wise, how are we doing for removal now? Removal, we've got 1. No, that's a combat trick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 bits of removal. This little bit of burn, which is kind of neat. Quite a bit of landfall, actually. Go back here. Zoom out for a second. We clear our filters. Okay, so we've got the bulk of our landfall stuff is already in our deck. Because if we look here, and we look at all these fine chaps, landfall 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 there. So yeah, in red for landfall we've got so I really like this guy here, and our Felidar. This guy, but that's just 2. If we look at our red, in our white we have some removal, but not an enormous amount. So let's see, for landfall in red, we've just got a lot of removal here in red. Not only that, but we've got this DFC. Plus, I think having this DFC here is super useful. I think it gives us a smoother mana base, honestly. Plus, this is fast, because instead you get that whole cost of you got to pick which one you want. So whichever one you're short of, you get that, but then that's all you get. Unless you happen to have one of those other spells that allows you to pull the land to cast that spell, bring this land back to your hand and cast it back down, but for the other side of it instead. Incidentally, in paper, when I'm thinking about this here, I really think that this guy, these DFCs are dual-faced cards, honestly. If I play this in paper, I'm going to be double sleeving everything. Otherwise, they're going to get so play-worn, it's not even funny. As you play, you're going to have to pop it out, shove it out of the sleeve, shove it back in. So you want to play with higher quality sleeves and dual sleeve the entire deck. So it's going to make your paper deck a little bit more expensive to build. But at least for me, since I keep my decks, it's not that big a deal. Okay. What are our bombs here? Don't really have any enormous bombs in this one. This is probably the closest we get to it. Really? Drop you, put a land down after. It gets giant. 6/5. Swing in with it. Smite either an opponent's blocking creatures or them in the face for 6 damage. That's really, can be really consequential. Also at this guy. And this deck for the most part tops out of 5. So it's pretty fast, really. A lot of our stuff's in the bottom end here. You even have a bunch of 2-ofs. So we can pump up our guys. Here we can grab a creature. If we happen to be short on creatures, we can cast this and grab a creature and stuff the rest down. So for flooding, even if we whiff out, if we're flooding, we can use this to essentially carve off a bunch of cards from the top of our deck, top of our library, and hopefully get to the things we actually need rather than stuff that's causing us to flood out. Let's have a look at this. At 1, we've only got this. It's not ideal. But we rotate back over here and we filter and we just have a look at our 0 and 1 costed fellows. Don't have a lot of low costed things in other colors in 1. We only had practice tactics. Also, at least in red, we had 2 1 costed things. So I still think it's best. We filter and we pump up to 2. For our low to the ground stuff, we've got a lot of white. Blue has a fair bit. Again, blue, not fantastic in our pool. Honestly, I'm liking the idea of aggro. Aggro tends to work pretty well in this, in a sealed format. Okay, let's see here. Target creature gets +3, +2, end of turn. We get to pump up something. And scry, so we get to go grab a card. So I think it's a pretty darn good spell for 2 mana. 3 damage to any target. We could also kick it later on in the game. If we happen to get in our hand later on in the game or just didn't have a target for it. Do 5 damage. Great against those bigger creatures or creatures that have been pumped up through landfall, such as the Felidar we saw earlier. All right. Okay. So now we've got this guy, Skyclave Sentinel. Flying Defender with a kick of 4. You're a quasi-bomb of sorts. We can kick you and make you a 4/5 late game. Chances are that won't happen all that often, but you never know if we end up in a board stall and just keep dropping lands that end up with a high amount of lands. We could get up to 7 mana. This could be good. And as long as it does have a counter on it, we can attack as though it didn't have Defender. We can use this to give it counters. Where else? Okay. This one also can give it counters. So we've got what so far? 1, 2, 3. Okay, 3. 3. Okay, so just 3. Okay. Okay, so just 3 enablers. Still, is there anything else in red or green we could swap this guy for instead? Let's have a look at our library again here. You're still Strixie sideboard. And party creatures, we still don't have an awful lot of those. We're still missing a card, by the way. Party enablers. We've got just 4. We've got 4, which is pretty good. But it's all just warriors. So it's only ever going to be 1 creature in our party. So party not super relevant. Basically, for 1 generic, this puts a +1/+1 counter on something. If we happen to have one of those 4 cards out. 4 out of 40, that's 10% of our cards. That's not bad. 1 in 10. Could be worse, but it's not great. So we could put that in, potentially. Better than this. This guy here, how many do we have at 3? How many creatures do we have at 3? 1 creature at 3? Oh, make that 2 creatures at 3? So you might be useful. This is a filler. What about you? This guy has kicker. And we had something here relevant to kicker. It was the equipment, right? No, not that. Let's see. Where was it? Let's see. Come on. Got to be here somewhere. I know I saw it. Let's see. No. On. Where was it here? No. It'd be a sorcery. Okay. We have a lot of warriors. We do, so yeah, that's definitely good to keep in. Oh, I was wrong about that kicker thing. Yeah. Nope. Okay. All right. So that was a bit of a diversion there. Let's see. This guy has reach. We were short on creatures at 3. Let's see here. But still, we are sort of somewhat short on creatures on 3. We've got how many creatures at 3 here? Let's see it. Creature-wise, yeah, 3 we're a bit short. If we want to kind of curve in a way more evenly, so maybe we do that. This guy blocks really nicely. There's a curve topper. So at 5, we have 5. We've got 2 cards. 3 cards there. At 4. I think probably we need something at 3 might be better. Because we're sort of low to the ground here, so I think we're better off prioritizing stuff at 3. So if we're looking at 3, we go here. What are we looking at? This? The sideboard, really? You as a filler. You are pretty good. You fit in both the 3 slot and the 5 slot. And the 5 slot we don't have an awful lot. You fit in both. Okay, this is this bit here. So we have kicker ability, so target card with kicker ability. Okay. So let's see here. That's 1. 1. Two, 3. There's 3 in limited. Such a sealed. That's not bad. If we're playing keyword bingo here, you're by far the better one. So you know what? You go in. You win the competition. What's our signature card? We didn't really find any real bombs in colors that had all of the red part of our acronym here. Do we have a lot of evasion? Let's see here. So evasion wise, we've got sort of a pump spell which could be quasi-evasion. Let's see. And what else here? And what else? Anything else with evasion here? Let's see. Not a lot with evasion going on here. We're low to the ground. Low and fast. Yeah. Okay. But we do have a lot of removal. Aggro, that's pretty handy. And if we look at our stuff here, our cheap creatures are low. Non-creatures are also cheap. I'm not 100% satisfied with this, but you know what? I think it's going to do. So, it's going to do as a first draft. Go back here. Reset our filters. Look at anything else. The only other archetype that was really of any real appeal to me. Like blue, I've always had trouble building blue decks, honestly. There's a bit of evasion in blue. But you know what? Honestly, we don't have a lot of... Feel free to pause the video, by the way, if you want to read these cards. I'm not going to hover for long. I'm just going to speed read them myself. There's not a lot in blue here. Not great. Okay. Well, let's see. Okay. Oh, yeah. And then in black. Got a few cool cards in black. Graveyard Recursion. DFC that's an instant or a land. That's kind of cool. That's evasion of a sort. Okay. A lot of party stuff, but again, I don't think party is going to work well in limited. I think party is going to be better in constructed play. I'm looking forward to trying to build a party deck. Might even be in all colors. We'll see. I might try to build in all colors of Wooburg. All colors party jank deck, just for fun. How often it'll win, who the heck knows. But maybe there's a combo in there somewhere we can try to pull off. Okay. This guy good in your vampire deck. Again, it's just not anything that really appeals to me here in black. Okay. It's good for Demir Mill. Maybe you could have a rogues deck. I know there's a rogue deck archetype in this format. So if we look again here, Rogue U. There's like all the colors that are rainbow rogue. 1, And then we've got down here. I don't think we have any rogues in any other colors. Nope. I think the rogues are all in black. Yeah. But really, if you want to build a party deck, gotta be... Let's see, it's gotta be blue, black, and green and white. Yep. Yep, at least. Really gotta be Wooburg, really. Or you could, depending on where the good warriors are, it's either green or red. Then your clerics are gonna be in white, your rogues in black and blue. So you could go like, let's see, so you need clerics, you need white, for sure. You need warriors, so you need either red or green. You need rogues. And then you need wizards, which would be in red or blue. Warriors, which are green or red. So really, if you want all of your people in your party, Wooburg is your best way to go. I have to sit down with some paper, try to figure that out. Yeah. There's not a rogue deck in our pool here, unfortunately. I honestly think this is the best we're going to be able to do with this pool. At least from my, admittedly, extremely rusty, limited deck building skills. I haven't played limited in, or since last year. I think late last year was the last time I played in a pre-release event at a game store. I'm really looking forward to getting back into that next year, though, when hopefully this whole other thing, this health crisis, global health crisis we're all going through, gets sorted out one way or the other. I think I'll celebrate when the next set comes out, attend an event at my LGS, my local game store, and play. I'm certainly going to have friends over and play in my dining room. I haven't had that happen since I moved here. And I moved here last August, August 2020. Okay, this video's been going, well, this is my longest video so far, over an hour. So we'd hit our time limit right now at the LGS, right on the nose. And I think we'd have our deck. So you know what? I think I'm going to end this part of the video here. This has been Ian the Itinerant Gamer. And I want to thank you so much for watching this part. And I think what we'll do is we're going to break this up possibly into 2 parts. I only want to push you through a 2-hour video. I mean, kind of brutal. So I'll drop it here. It's 6:30. I'm going to be playing this sealed deck against a friend of mine later on this evening after supper. So I think now it's supper time for me here. And so, no matter where you are in the world, please stay healthy. And good luck. And have fun. Take care. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye. This has been Ian, the Itinerant Gamer. And thank you for watching, liking, and subscribing.